beautiful film.
This is Matt Thomas, co-producer, and again, Sean Stanley. His first editing ever. Hold on, it's supposed to Andrew.
Yes, we're...
the DP is here as well, sorry. Andrew?
He's just in the washroom, he'll be right back.
Well, yeah, on behalf of the programmers, I have a question here. They give notes for this, and they would like to know, and I would like to know, this is the first doc on the Continental Baths.
Yes.
And how is that possible?
I think the reason why it was is that essentially, I mean, the thing is that what happened soon after in the gay community was ultimately AIDS came along. And there's that period where essentially nobody really wants to talk about the good times that happened because obviously it was such a fucking awful time that came soon after. So I think enough time had to pass where you could go back and look at something like the Continental. Because I mean, I think there's a lot of guilt involved, and so I think that there had to be a good chunk of time before that this story could really be told, and you could kind of celebrate a moment like that.
And how did you and Steve initially meet? Or when did you have the idea, and how did it all come to be?
I kind of came up with the idea, I mean, of doing this. I wanted to make, after a Small Town Gay Bar, I wanted to make a gay history doc. But I took the easy route and made a bear doc. and then I kind of, the only thing I knew about the Continental Baths was what everybody basically knows, that Bette Midler got her start there. And I was kind of like, I wanted to know more. And then I met Steve Ostro, and that motherfucker was ready to tell a story. You know what I mean? And talking to him, like, we talked on the phone, and I was just like, oh my God, like, who is this guy? This guy is incredible. And then, luckily did a Kickstarter and had a lot of support and stuff, and hopped on a plane and went and sat down and talked to him. And I was really influenced by movies like The Cockettes and stuff, which is a really great movie that essentially the people are still alive to tell the tale. And I was just kind of like, how wonderful that so many people are still alive to tell this tale. So I rushed to Australia to get the interview, and I was going to bank it and then try and raise the money. Then once I did the interview, Ostro was like, all right, where's the movie? So I had to go out and make a movie so kind of Steve could finally see a Continental made.
And that's motivation.
He really was.
That guy wants a movie.
He's a persuasive individual, that Steve Ostro.
Yeah, let's open up the floor for questions here. We got a great audience, and over there.
Hi. Was there anything physically left of that club in the building? Did you get in there to check it out?
There is like a little, it's really sad because it's turned into a parking garage. And I just was there 2 weeks ago. And I kind of did my first tour of it. And it's literally a parking garage except where the pool was. Like just still kind of showing up from underneath the tar is some tiles from the pool that are still there. And it's so funny, I went and talked to like all the people and they're like, yes, we know the Continental used to be there. Like, they get asked about it all the time.
Yes.
Yeah, was there any music you wanted to get licensed for the film that you had a hard time getting?
We did pretty good. I mean, there was one clip that I wanted to use that was Bette Midler singing a Bob Dylan song, I Shall Be Released, and it's like, how the fuck am I like? So, I mean, but essentially, I'm really, really happy. Like, we were really, really lucky. There was no real kind of piece of music. I was really happy with everything we got.
Oh, over here.
Malcolm, was Bette approached at all for commentary on the doc, and if so, did she decline?
Bette, well, we approached her several different ways. I mean, the word we got back that she was busy. I'm actually incredibly grateful that, I mean, I think that my inclination as a filmmaker, I think that if I had gotten the Bette Midler interview, I think the movie would have been, there would have been a hell of a lot more Bette in the story, and it gave me room to figure out that the real story of the Continental was Steve Ostro. And it gave me more room, I think, to kind of tell his story than to kind of like shoehorn a bunch of Bette. So I'm really grateful. I think that she certainly acknowledges the Continental, like she's certainly not against it or anything like that, but I think Musto kind of says it best. It's just like she's just done talking about it. Like she She has gone on record saying she just doesn't want, like, you know, continental baths on her gravestone. So, I mean, ultimately, I think that we cover it, we don't ignore it. I mean, of course she was there and stuff, but it's not a focal part of the story. Which is interesting, because that's what initially drew me to it, was her, you know, her attachment to it. But, I mean, if I did my job right, hopefully people start talking more about Steve Ostro in the Continental Baths instead of Bette Midler.
Did you ever doubt the veracity of Steve Ostro?
Did I ever, it's an interesting question. I felt it was his story to tell, and I trusted the man at his word. I didn't feel like, so I would say no.
He sure takes credit for almost everything that happened that other people did.
I think that, no, I think he talks about his involvement. He mentions everything that he is involved in. He doesn't say, he never says he did anything singularly. Like, he basically says he was a part of something. He was kind of like, he had a zealot presence, but I think that everybody will agree that no, like, you know, the movement is a movement. It's not a movement of one, it's a movement of people. He was a part of that movement, but I don't think that he singularly feels that he was the singular person responsible for anything.
Yeah, one thing I would like to know about him is he has such a presence, obviously, and I mean, I guess it makes sense from his background as a performer. But how much were you surprised in the editing process, especially too, that this film became such a powerful human story about him and his coming of age and all of that?
For me, it was a complete learning experience. But the heart, I think, for me, it was a lot Malcolm and Steve. The story he was telling when I was looking at the footage. That kind of led me there. I didn't know too much about him before Malcolm introduced me to the whole thing. So the surprise, I'm not sure if I was that, but that was the story, I thought. You know, there's a lot of heart there with Mag and everything else that he continues to do. I would also like to thank, while I'm up here, all the people who helped us, who gave us music and helped us with the music rights and everything. I just want to take
Yeah, that's a tremendous amount of
Make me
work.
look like a dick. Yeah, actually, a guy named Nakia, who's a local musician, had a song in there as well. So, but I think, going back to your question, sir, I think that an interesting thing about Steve Ostro, one of the things that is undeniable about it, is that ultimately, this is a man who very much gave his life to kind of creating community. And I think that it's wonderful that even into his later years, he didn't abandon the community. He's still creating community. I mean, he singularly did create MAG in Australia, like mature age gays. Like, his heart is definitely in this. You know what I mean?
We've got a question here.
Okay.
It's actually not. I'm sure I'll think of one to ask you later, Malcolm, but I just have to say I thought it was beautiful.
Thank you.
Very
Thank you very much.
incredibly compelling and touching, the way you collected some tremendous historical archival footage, and I just want to say I love it. So.
Thank you so much.
Yes, here in the middle.
Did you encounter any resistance from anybody in making the film? Anybody not want any of their stuff in there?
No. I mean, everybody was pretty, I mean, like I didn't approach Barry Manilow. You know, I just figured, like, if Bat wasn't gonna be involved, that I just didn't go down that road. But nobody was like, fuck you. You know, people seem to be pretty receptive. I think enough time has passed. I was surprised at the amount of people who would talk, you know, about a bathhouse.
Right here.
Hey, Malcolm, just wanted to talk about your road to getting this picture made, because I know from someone who's known you for a while, just as an independent, by getting it financed, putting it together, and stuff like that. If you can just elaborate a bit more on it.
I sucked a lot of dicks. And, I mean, there was, like, this movie was willed to an existence by the generosity of many. It really was, like, I mean, you know, thank God for things like crowdfunding, where, you know, this movie, nobody really had an interest in this story being told. And you know, when I kind of first was kind of pitching it, and then I had another option that kind of opened up, and then a whole bunch of people, like, through different ways, kind of heard, you know, and people kind of banded together, and that's how the story was told. It was basically told by people who were like, you know, I like this guy, I like what he's done before, and let's see what he does with this. And it was a total privilege, you know, to be kind of in a situation where people, you know, support you sight unseen on something. It's a really cool time. I mean, anybody, this is a great time to be a filmmaker. Like, I think that you could find an audience easier than you ever could before. You could make something like this easier than you can before, and it's now a lot less about asking for permission, and just about going out and doing it.
Well, great. Thank you so much for coming out there, giving us the notice here. But
Thank
we really,
you, everybody.
thanks for coming and celebrating this film.